Go back in and take a look because we're recording right now. Wow, that was perfect timing. um, so the past links, they're always in that recap email that you get after each monthly call, and usually Sean sprinkles in reminders in between. So it's also now been added to the Zone 3334 TV YouTube channel. So Rotary Zones 33-34 TV on YouTube. So that's cool. Now, without going into great detail, I just want to recap what we discussed last month. Who in the room remembers what we talked about? Raise your hand if you remember vividly what we discussed. Did you also remember that there was homework? So we discussed objections, and the team talked about despite everyone's best efforts, we will often find ourselves being met with certain objections. And we explore ways to create innovative membership opportunities around those objections, kind of let people know here's why this can still work. So we went through a list of the top 20. We narrowed it down to 3, and then we really went ham on those 3 and kind of just discussed some suggestions, and then we covered some questions, and then we gave homework. And so hopefully, if any of you guys were objection seeking this month, you may have something to share with us as we fade into our facilitated session. I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Thank you, Renee. So I cleaned up the objections, and I know Patrick won't mind because I certified it just barely, and I'm going to share it up on the screen. But first of all, did anyone encounter any objections over the last month? Did anyone seek out objections and with the homework assignment in mind? And if someone did, they automatically get an A because they may be the only one that did. And so if you did, please let me know. And I think I have a pretty good idea from that. So I'm going to share the screen that has the objections on it, the objections that we discussed last night or last time. And part of this is, this is where sort of the rubber meets the road. And you know, if you're going to reach out to people and they push back, this is the first wave of pushback. And in a minute, Patrick's going to talk about having some, what we call transitional lines to go from sort of being on the defense to, I guess, to a certain extent, discussing the objections and having conversations about them. I won't say go on the offense, but really more to convert it to a conversational type basis. So hold on just a second. Chris, could you turn sharing on for me, please?
Sure. Happy to do that. You should be good.
Okay. Can everyone see this?
It's coming.
Well, there. I'm going to move my little sharing
we see
block
it.
out of the way. There we go.
Mike, did you correct all my spelling?
I didn't correct your spellings, but I put 18, 19, and 20 on this page. But I'm happy to correct spelling later. I didn't. Word, or I guess Google didn't find that many misspellings, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I'm going to put this up for a minute. The yellow are the 3 that we talked about last time, and I'm going to go down to some of the answers in just a minute. And I picked 4 more for this time. But I would like to get some thoughts on the dues issue. And I would like some feedback because this is an issue that I've encountered personally with clubs, and it's that the club says, well, okay, everybody pays RI and district dues, but we want them to pay our same club dues, or we don't want to give them a discount, or how much discount do we give them? Obviously, they may not pay for meals if they have an alternate arrangement. Does anyone have any thoughts on how they've handled that objection or dealt with the dues issue? Because this is, Patrick's done so many of these clubs, and it's what he says is the number one thing, if people are honest, that they object, that is an objection. And I'd be curious to know what sort of, if anyone has any thoughts on that.
You can raise their hands. Also, okay, if you don't raise your hands, we got Carrie Gray. How are you?
Hey,
Carrie,
I'm good. Sorry, I'm in the car.
don't you worry about it at all. I'm going to ask you a quick question. When you're out there recruiting for either one of your clubs and you're going over all of those things, somebody brings up, if you're talking with club members or you're talking, because I know you've talked to a bunch of people about starting an impact club or starting a companion club, and you come across that objection on money, hey, we want people to pay the same as us, or they're going to leave for that, or anything like that. What's something that you would say? Because I know you've encountered that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think the money question, especially for legacy clubs that are basically living off of the lunches that are not eaten, and I say living like their budget, like my club is a legacy club. We have paid part-time staff because of the size of the club. So we can only afford to do that because of our people that pay for lunches that don't come and eat them, right? And so, but when we went to form our companion club, we talked with folks about like, listen, you know, we need to give people options. We need to give them an option to join Rotary. We need to give them a gateway to join Rotary. Like they may actually transition from our companion club to our home club. And, you know, we have to look at the bigger financial picture of the whole club, not just, the short term. We have to think about the long game. And so that's what I've been emphasizing a lot with folks is like, maybe it's time to really look at the entire financial picture of your club and not just, this one issue and figure out whether it's going to be even sustainable. Because if you don't do something, you're not growing, you're not going to be able to sustain long term.
How was that received?
I mean, I say to people, listen, I'm going to be a truth teller. I've done this presentation on innovative clubs 4 times in the last 3 weeks and to different clubs. And I kind of say to them, like, I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. So we've got to figure this out. And this is the one place in our district where we are growing is companion clubs. And so, I think people are kind of like, oh, yeah, like gut check, but also I think they appreciate me being honest with their members, especially the presidents that have been trying to do something different or that have been trying to think differently about membership. I think they appreciate somebody else coming in with a different perspective to say to them, it can work for your club. You just have to be willing to do the work to
Right.
launch a companion club or a satellite. So
Okay.
Can
yeah.
I follow up real quick, Mike?
Well, I was going to let Rich and Sarah have their
Yeah.
hand up, so I was going to let them have some input on this, and we'll keep moving along.
Hey, this is Rich.
Thank
So
you,
when I receive objections, I typically employ a concept I call neutral feedback. Neutral feedback is another term for ignoring. Immediately change the subject to talk about community service. What community service do you wish your club did? What community services, what more would you like to do, having the opportunities, having the manpower, and just kind of turn the subject. Then when they get re-excited about more community service or a higher level of community service, that objection has just gone into thin air. And it's gone, and they're back on track. More community service, gonna need more members to get that. Companion club sounds like a good way to go, Rich. Yeah, you're right.
Well, on talks that I've given on membership, not so much for new clubs, I do start with what is your real goal? And for some clubs, it's not membership growth at all. They could care less about that. But a lot of times, more often than not, it's doing more service. And so when you peel it back a layer, more service is the real goal. And obviously, whether it's a companion club or members to their club, they need more people in their club. Sarah.
Yeah, first of all, I'm Sarah Woodrum. I'm new to the committee. I'm from District 7545. Sean Sawyer had asked me to join. It's a new role, but so I'm not familiar with everything. Carrie and Mike, you were both talking about a companion club. Can you define that versus a satellite club? I'm not familiar with the term.
Well, I'll give my definition. I'll let Patrick give a better definition. And both are have a parent club of the existing club. It's kind of evolved that the companion is more a club that plans to stay connected to the parent club longer term, and the satellite may have a goal of branching off one day into its own club. But they're both an impact club that Patrick has opened a number of. All of them are part of the parent, but just have their own structure.
Okay, thank you. That helps. We have satellite clubs. I don't think we have any companion clubs, so I wasn't sure.
Well, Rotary, I think, calls them all satellite, but there is a lot of confusion to the terminology for
Right.
sure.
Thank you.
Colleen,
Yeah, Mike, I think that I am totally with Rich and Sarah. I'm sorry, with Carrie on this. The people that we are frequently hearing complaints from my club, they're saying we're paying all these dues, but you also want me to do service projects, and that's not what I want to do. So if you can turn that and sell it as, hey, we all want to do more in our community, right? And this is going to help lessen your burden on needing to come and do set up for a wine raffle or for the chicken barbecue. I think that would help.
I tell people I think 30-year-olds have two huge advantages over 60-year-olds, and that's two 30-year-old knees.
Exactly.
We need the younger generation to do some of the physically demanding service. I'm going to move on to number 6 and then quickly 10. And then I put 4 others up here. I'm not sure we'll have time to get to those because I really want Patrick to give us the secret sauce here in just a minute on the process. But does anyone have any comments on number 6? We're not equipped to mentor a companion club, which is probably true in a lot of cases. There has to be some sort of intentional structure or champions in the club. Any thoughts on that?
I'll jump in again, Mike, if that's okay.
Sure.
I've heard this from folks, and I've heard number 6 and number 10. And I've said to folks, well, how do you mentor a new member of your club? And so they talk about what they do to mentor new members. And I'm like, okay, this is the same thing, except in your satellite or companion club, one of your current members, and I recommend 1 to 4 of your current members are going to move over to that companion or satellite club and be the champions and the people to mentor these new members. And then as you bring on more new members into that satellite, the members of the satellite will mentor the new members. So it doesn't have to be, that you're mentoring an entire club. You are mentoring new Rotarians. That's all this is.
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Patrick, Patrick.
Yeah, Carrie, Carrie Gray has done a lot of these. That's the reason why I kind of picked on her just a little bit. She'll pay me back, as soon as we get off this call, I'm pretty sure of it. But, it's kind of funny that, we threw these top 20 objections up there, and Carrie not only did a fantastic club up in her home club, but she's really out there kind of, digging on these things. And I think what we missed in that follow-up that I wanted to give to Carrie is that you wind up speaking with 1 or 2 of the people in the club, but then you wind up speaking with everybody. So you're able to overcome the objections and help the president or help the PE or the member of the club that wants to further the agenda. So the objections that you learn to overcome with this, with this process will help you bring the entire club along. You're not so much facilitating and giving the answers to 1 or 2 people. If you can learn to do, like what Carrie does is kind of present in front of people, they're going to be really open to telling you what the deal is. And if you can learn to overcome those objections, you won't have to go through so many steps on that. And that's what Carrie's been able to do. So I think, you know, that's what she said at the very beginning in her statement. And I think that that's a really good piece to hone in on as you're out there talking with people, as more and more people come to you and ask you about these things. Hey, yeah, absolutely. Why don't, is there a way that we can get in front of your club or in front of the board or in front of whatever like this? So you're not just speaking to one person. I would rather, and I'm sure Carrie would rather, or Rich would rather, hey, just bring them all on at once. You know, I mean, come on
Yep.
and let's sit down and let's knock this out. And and it's not scary at all. It really isn't. It's just you can knock all the objections out at one time if you have a group of people instead of just one-on-one.
Yeah,
Carrie, you,
I absolutely agree. And I think then everybody hears the question or the objection, and everybody hears the answer to the question or the objection. And so
yep.
I think that that helps. And then number 10, I hear quite often, like, we're going to lose members, we're going to lose members. And my response to them is, no, you're going to retain members, because you're going to lose members that want to leave because you didn't give them options. And a companion or satellite club is going to give them options that they don't currently have. They joined Rotary, they stayed in Rotary for all these years because there's a reason, right? They love Rotary, whatever it is. And now it's either time or money or some factor that is coming into play that is making them think they should leave. And if they had this option, maybe they'd stay. And I tell, give the example of my club. Yes, we have 49 members in our satellite companion club, our impact club, but 17 of those people were members from our home club who we would have lost had we not had this option.
And I think you made a great point earlier, Carrie, maybe without realizing it, just to address it head on and say, yes, the purpose, one of the things we're trying to do is to lose a few members to the companion club, that 1 to 4 members that we want to be champions of the companion club. And we want experienced Rotarians to take the lead on the companion club, and that'll change. And for every one, in my experience, for every one member that leaves a club for a companion club, you get 5 or 10 more in the companion club. And like you say, it gives options. It gives 2 ways to join. And I think more and more clubs are recognizing the importance of having 2 ways to, more than 1 way to be a member of the club. So I'm going to not go into the rest of them. We will send, I redid this and just made it a little easier to read so that we can have these, and we'll get the top 20 out to everybody and either provide a link or the document itself. So with that, I want to turn it over to Patrick to talk about transitional, at the ready transitional lines, and to move from being on the defense to having collaborative conversations. So Patrick?
Absolutely. Could you stop sharing real quick?
Sure.
Thanks, Mike. All right, everybody who's not driving, including Chris Justice, who is not on his treadmill today, which is always a good thing. I need a show of hands. How many people feel comfortable walking into an entire club and talking about companion clubs or satellite clubs? And show of hands, do you feel comfortable being able to answer the questions that come back on it? Fantastic if you don't. It's not a problem at all. It's just like, I'm going to ask another question. How many people here know somebody in their Rotary Club that's been in there for 30 years and they brought one person to Rotary? Everybody on this call knows that one person. Well, here's the thing. Not everybody feels comfortable talking about Rotary. There's people on this call, like Renee. She can speak to a mannequin about Rotary and probably has. Same thing with Rich. I know he has. We practice all the time, but I hear all the time that we need to have an elevator speech. And I think that forcing people that are uncomfortable initiating a conversation with somebody is not always the best thing. We want to make sure that if we have an interested party, that we feel comfortable doing that. So two things. My first point is if you feel a little uncomfortable with a first meeting or anything like that, there's plenty of people on this call that would love to be in that meeting with you. I invite a lot of people from across a lot of different zones on step one calls with me all the time so that they can do it. You guys are more than welcome to as well. But what I want to do is I want to kind of give you some transitional lines. As many times have I done this, I've taken over 1,900 calls. So it's not that I'm better than anybody on this. I've just failed like way more than anybody on this. I think I've failed more, put more clubs together than anybody in Rotary history. But I've developed a way that I feel comfortable with any kind of objection getting into the discussion. At first, people used to come to me and they'd throw out an objection to me, and I'd be like, no, that's not true. It goes like this. And all of a sudden, I've put that person on the defensive. So when I really started to break down the objections and then how to overcome them, I realized that if I just remembered one line or I tailor made one line that put the person at ease and then go into the objection. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, you know, if demonstrate long-term financial growth is one. It's companion clubs often serve as a gateway, for members to transition into legacy clubs. I can get into that discussion, and people are going to turn off right away. But the one line that I use to get into that discussion will really kind of slow them down and open their ears to what I'm about to tell them. And what I usually say on that is, companion clubs are a pipeline for future growth. Let me explain why. And then I go into the thing. So if you're nervous about overcoming objections, or what happens if they ask me a question that I don't want, what I want you to do is kind of use a transitional line. Another one, new member attraction. If people are like, you want to really get into new member attraction before I start explaining ways that people can do it, I'll put, out there something as simple as companion clubs bring in an entirely new audience. Let me explain why. And that's another way that you continue to keep going into those. One of the things that Carrie brought up, options. I've been working on a lot of things, and most of you have heard me speak a couple of times and getting pretty sick of it. But what I like to say a lot of times is, listen, we need to make sure that we give choices coming into Rotary and options before they leave. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. When somebody comes in, or when you're approaching somebody about Rotary, we give choices, this and this, and blah, blah, blah. And then we've all been there, and I give an example and talk about options. Right now, what's our only option before people leave Rotary? If your club, somebody comes up to you at the end of the year or in December, and they say to you, I don't want to leave service to the club, but how many people have gotten that before from somebody in their club? Their life changed or anything like that. Everybody has. So what what happened before in Rotary is that our only option that we gave them is, okay, bye, we'll miss you. Please stay in touch. If life changed again, come on back. Now what we're doing is we're explaining one of the benefits of having a companion club. We have an option before they leave. So these transitional things that you can do and say will help you get into the conversation, and instead of being telling the other person what they believe is not the case, it actually will allow them to let you explain it to them. Am I making any sense on that? Okay. Carrie, when you start doing it, and I'm picking on you again, or Renee, when you start talking about it, is there any go-to line that you go to if somebody says something to you? Is there anything that you go to and then go into the conversation to make it a whole lot easier, the transition?
Who else did you ask? Because I certainly don't want to
Renee,
suck
because
up
I
all the
saw you
time.
there like this, so I was like, I'm gonna ask Renee as well,
Yeah, who else?
and then Carrie, because we were
Yeah, Carrie, go. Yeah, I don't want to talk over. I always have time to talk.
Um, I'm trying to think of a transitional line like from an objection. I think one of the things that I often ask people is, um, you know, if they could change one thing about their club, what would they change?
perfect.
Um, and then, if whatever the answer is, I'm sure there's an innovative club option that could solve that. And then we talk about it.
That's absolutely perfect. It can be something as simple as that. If they ask you about, I'm worried that people will leave my club and, go to this cheaper option or any of the objections that are on that list. It's, let me ask you a question. What are the dreams for your club? What do you see in your club? Da 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 da. And when they tell you, then you can go into overcoming the objection. It's really your comfort blanket. So when you develop that one line or that one thing that you say all the time, and make no mistake about it, there's a lot of leaders on this call. We see Kevin Kendricks is here. Love listening to Kevin speak. Chip Cross, I'm so happy to see him from 7670. He's the best recruiter I've ever met in my life, pure recruiter. And I know for a fact that Chip, whenever somebody talks to him about Rotary, he will use one of the things that he goes to. It's his go-to line, and then start talking to the person depending upon what situation or what objection that they had. Jose, I know that you're here from as our RMO, and you hear them all the time, don't you? When you're asking about clubs. So, when you're looking at these objections and people are giving them to you, is there anything specific that you say that can help those people overcome those objections? Is there any go-to lines or, hey, if you take a look at this and some of the learning stuff that we have, this might help you. Is there anything that you suggest to people, Jose?
Patrick, I'm an advocate for data. I always like to look at the numbers and kind of demonstrate and show people because over
Perfect.
what has it been, over almost 2 years now I've been in this specific role. I found that we still have leaders that are unaware of the unfortunate loss that has been occurring, whether in their specific club or at a district level. So often I bring the data to the conversation to demonstrate, show the bigger picture of what's really going on. And it's not to be doom and gloom, right? We bring it in a very positive mindset of what opportunity we have now that we know the current situation that we're at. So for me, Patrick, it's always bringing data to the conversation to demonstrate and prove we're having this conversation to figure out what we can do better.
Yeah, I
I
think.
sorry,
Okay.
I love that, Jose, 100%. The minute you started to say that, I was doing the dum 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 because I'm not even a data person, but I know almost everyone I know is. Um, but the other thing I would say, like you said, make it a positive. Make sure they understand it's a positive. To me, we need to listen more. We need to be more curious. We need to not immediately assume the next 5 words that are coming out of their mouth, cut them off and start giving them the solution that we know we already have in our brain. If we react too quickly, that's disingenuous. They're going to see right through it and think, oh, this is a sales deal. They're trying to, sell me a bag of goods. That's it. They've stopped listening or trusting us. The key here is to walk in the room and know that you've got something that they need. You just have to figure out what it is. Because honestly, I don't know what I don't know, and they don't know what they don't know.
Mhm.
And if we aren't asking questions, we're never going to get there. So be more curious and be more positive about it. Like when they say the complaint, say, and how does that make your club members feel? How does your board feel about that? Is this 1 or 2 people that have come to you, or is this 60 or 80? Are you getting emails on the daily, or is this something someone casually mentioned while you guys were both getting coffee? Be curious because people can catastrophize. I know that's a shock to you all. No one here, I'm sure, has ever catastrophized anything the past couple weeks. So I just feel like we just have to be extremely positive and extremely aware of what they're saying and not just the words that are coming out of their mouth, because you can learn a lot more about, you know, what's going on with body language and more conversation. You can go way deeper. And then for me, what I find is, I don't know about you guys, I'll just be in a conversation with someone. I think I've been in a conversation with Kevin Kendrick like this, been in a conversation with someone, and I will literally stop and be like, oh, wait, that's it.
That's
Maybe you'll have your aha moment with them, or they'll have it with you.
Renee, I think having Jose answer the way that he answered and then having you follow up with that, I think that was absolutely perfect. And I'm going to use that scenario to there. So,
And not even planned. That wasn't
I
even.
know, I love it. But
Good
you know,
job,
what
Jose.
about that is that I want you to just remember one thing. Hope is very, very important to the clubs that we talk to. All they've heard over the last 10 years is we're failing, we're losing members, we have to do things. Now, that's the first step in getting people to do something. So when you go in with data or you go in with anything at all, and you're truthful with them and you listen to them, and how does that make you feel? That's wonderful. But wait, there's hope. We've looked together at the demographics of your area. Chris Jones is wonderful at this. He'll go, how many people, and I started using it, how many people are in your county? Well, we've got 80,000. Okay, well, let's say 40,000 are eligible to become, you know, Rotarians. Do you think that it would be so absurd to think that we could get 1% to join you in your movement and doing more service in your community? And then all of a sudden they start to understand or feel like there might be hope out there on top of it. So I think Jose, one of the great, that was a great thing that you brought up, and Renee following up with that. But add that little bit of hope at the end, guys, and let them see that little sliver, because we bringing them down to the point where they realize it, they know it, but now they see a way out, and they'll follow you anywhere. You know what I mean? They will follow you anywhere. Carrie Gray, I've listened to her talk, and I keep going back to her. I've listened to Chip, Chris Justice, you know, a lot of people on this call, Rich Salon, Mike. I mean, when we talk a lot, we break things down into this bare thing. What can we do better? What can we do? What can we do better? But they always leave me with, we're going to go here, and that we're going to do it together. So that's one of the best joys that you can bring to a club that you're talking, is that they're not alone in this. We know that this is where it's at, but we're going to do this together, and we're going to get to what you dream of. I always tell a club, whatever you dream of, we can do. So they'll, you know, adding that little bit of hope onto anything after you've stated the objection, overcome it, give them that hope as well. Okay. Chris Justice, can I ask you a question? Our incoming RC, Mr. Justice?
Yes, sir. Go for it.
I know that. Oh, look, he's got a podcast microphone and everything. Let's everybody give Chris Justice a little golf clap here. He's going to be real prepared for next year. Hey, Chris, I know that you're putting together, I mean, your district is really, really good. You know, probably the innovative district, you know, in our zone. You know, started lots of different types of clubs. When you know that something will work for somebody, but the objections you can always overcome. I've seen you do it. Is there a you know, a line? Is there not just a line, but is there a feeling that you like to instill in these people before they leave to make them believe? I mean, is that, because to do as many clubs as you guys have, you had to really work hard, but you had to instill a belief that they can do it. So is there something that you or any of the people that you do in your thing that helps?
I don't know that it's any one line, Patrick. I mean, I think for us, it's been all about just getting as much saturation in the market as we can, right? You know, so whenever I'm harping on the learning opportunities, I'm harping on it because it works. You know, I mean, the membership summit, it's huge, right? And it's huge to have a big section of it devoted to innovative clubs. If you get time at district conference to talk about membership, do it. If you get time at, DLT, or if you have a fall training, address innovative clubs every chance that you get. And then there's invites that we get, right? And I think Renee stole something I was going to say, and I mean, we were thinking the exact same thing. It's the Ted Lasso thing. Be curious, ask questions, right? And, I think that in our district, we've been very good about asking questions and really having this process sell itself. Because once you've established, and I want to get disjointed a little bit, but the Membership Success Center has been huge because we've been able to show people this is the reality of what your membership has looked like over the last few years, right? And if you don't make a change, then, or, you don't have some value adds like an innovative club or a companion club, then this is your reality. I mean, we're going to see a pretty steady decline over time, and we can show it. It's, like Jose said, it's data driven. We can show it. So just blending all the tools together and doing it every opportunity that we have is what's driven the success in our district. I mean, it's just doing it over and over and getting in front of every audience we possibly can.
And
That's
Chris is showing great success in his district. His district has the #1 member gain so far this year. So what he says, listen to.
Yep.
Sorry, Patrick, didn't mean to.
No problem at all. That's one of the other things is like you said, it's a numbers game too. The more people you get in front of, the more things that are going to come together. And I would be remiss. I see that Mary Ligon, our RC from Zone 34, has joined the call. Probably a little bit before that I saw her. And I want to make sure that we recognize everybody. And apparently, in the comments, somebody said it was her birthday yesterday. So we want to say happy birthday to Mary. Mary, do you got anything to add to that discussion? I know that you do. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, y'all are the experts on this, but I probably am aligned with Renee and Chris on the idea of I don't have a single line to use. It is all about asking questions and understanding where they're coming from, and then tailoring whatever remarks to try to address their interests and issues.
Yep. Transitional
Thank you, Mary.
people that are
I'm going to try to, Patrick.
when they first start coming across on overcoming objections. Carrie Gray has her hand up.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So it wasn't an objection at a recent meeting of one of the clubs that I presented to, but it was a funny response, which was, in the nonprofit sector in Delaware anyway, in the nonprofit sector, we're all talking about how we should be merging and reducing duplication of effort and everything. He's like, Carrie, why wouldn't all of these clubs that are struggling just become satellite clubs of a larger club? And it took me off guard. I was like, oh, goodness. Okay, well, and I took a second to think for a minute, and I said, okay, that's certainly an option, right? That could be an option for a club that's struggling. But instead of that option, I just feel like every club has its own personality, its own culture, its own dynamic. And I'd rather see that club grow and expand than become a companion or a satellite underneath the wing of another club.
I'd rather see them have a couple of Discover Rotary events, like one of my small clubs in my district has had, that and let them have some accelerated growth that way.
Yeah. I felt like I handled it well, but if there's any other way for somebody to handle that, because I don't think that will be a unique question. I think people will be like, we're a small club, we're struggling. Why don't we just become a satellite of your bigger club, and we'll just do it that way.
Yeah, it's two different things, Carrie, because if a club comes to you, if club leadership comes to you and ask about that, then yeah, you can talk about a pathway. But the fastest way to upset a club is to go to them with that suggestion.
Oh, sure. No, I would never. I would never go and I would never do that. But it was just an interesting, well, why wouldn't this be an option for kind of question? And it wasn't a club that's struggling per se. They haven't brought in a new member, I don't think, yet this year, but they're pretty sizable in terms of their membership. So it was just a funny thing that kind of caught me off guard, and I thought, oh wow, I wonder if anybody else has had somebody suggest that.
Well, we get a lot of those types of things. And as the clubs get smaller, what happens? You're with 13 people. Who's serving as president next year? Oh, this is my third time. I'm a retread, and all those other types of things that you hear. And it puts a lot of burden. And that's when people start saying, and I've heard there's been an uptick of it, of people saying, I'm tired. I can't do it anymore. I can't be president for a third time, and all those other things. So it does happen, and it will happen even more. But the
Yeah.
leadership that we have in zone 33 and 34, the RCs that we have, and those types of things, we'll be able to get that figured out. I was able to help on one situation with up in 7305 Al's district up there. They came to me, and we wound up we're able to save a club that just said, we're not doing it. We can't do the administration anymore. They wound up being a companion club of another club. And they have now grown by 8 members this year alone. So it, that indeed worked, but it will happen more often, Carrie. You'll hear that,
Yeah.
more and
Well,
more.
I think as people become more familiar with the companion club or impact club concept, that they would look at that as a possible solution. I'm going to transition to Ken because we're a little behind schedule. We've had a fantastic discussion, and I love that we've had that. But Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you for a couple minutes here.
And thank you, Patrick, for leading that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Patrick.
Mike and Patrick,
Awesome.
and thanks to everybody for your comments. It was a great discussion. One of the things that Chris Justice brought up was getting the word out in your districts. And as our district governor-elects are packing their bags and heading to Orlando for International Assembly, we're now coming into training season, not only for our district governors, but we're also going to be coming into our pet sessions and our district assemblies or our district learning sessions, whatever your district may call them. What is everybody doing to get in front of the audiences during those training sessions? Anybody have any comments, any ideas of how you're getting yourself in front of that audience?
My only thought is creating a slide for the DGE pets, put it right in front of so the DGE doesn't have to create it, but they discuss the innovative club concept nonetheless. I saw Chris, I thought you raised your hand.
Yeah, I saw Chris's hand up. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, Ken, just for clarification, what are you talking about just through the training cycle in general or at a specific training event?
Any of the training sessions that your district may be holding, whether it's pets or whether it's district assembly, any training sessions that you have for club leaders as well as club members coming in. How are we getting the word out in our districts about innovative clubs?
Well, I usually tell you how we're doing it here. And, and part of it, the ICA has got to be integrated into the overall membership team. And I'm actually wrapping up a survey across Zone 33 now, and I was a bit surprised that that's not always the case in districts. A lot of districts, the ICA just kind of works. The term silo keeps coming up, right? And they kind of work in a silo. In my mind, that is an improper way to do it. I mean, they have to be integrated, and then the district membership team, including the ICA, have to be integrated with the overall leadership of the district. And so the conversation, this is an organic conversation that should be happening all the time. And so, in our district, it's cultural that innovative clubs are going to be addressed at all of these opportunities. As is membership, as are elements of foundation. I mean, all of the things that move the needle. Right. And so it's got to be cultural. The way you get there, I think, in districts where it may not be part of the culture yet, is that, I mean, aggressive is probably the wrong way to put it, but at least, let's say assertive, right? So have to be assertive about asking for those opportunities. And if there's not a slot in DLT or, at least a mention at pets, ask for it. Ask for the time.
You're gonna have to do that, guys. I mean, you're going to have to fight for your space. If you're on this committee and you believe in innovative clubs and you believe that you can help save Rotarians and help bring new Rotarians in through new innovative ways, if you truly believe that, it's been my experience over the past 4 to 5 years in doing this that you're going to have to fight to get. And Chris said Chris Justice said the number one way to do is repetitive. Keep getting every opportunity to get in front of everybody. And if your district's not allowing you to do that, you might have to fight for it a little bit. I mean, we literally have not been at Carolina's Pets. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a, they might mention it or something like this, but there's been nothing really heavy on that agenda. I mean, so you're going to have to enlist and fight for a little bit. But if you find yourself with a little bit of trouble getting in or kind of elbowing your way in, there's a lot of people on this call that will pick up the phone and help you get to where you need to be. Chris Justice, Chris Jones, Mike Walker, your Mary Ligon, if you're down there in 34, they will help you get in front of people if you ask them to.
Yeah. And Rich, real quick, we're almost up to the end of our time.
Yeah, no, just, I've almost given up on emails, trying to communicate and convince people, inspire people by emails. Emails, almost the equivalent of a written social media post. Just doesn't get it. Not many people read written social media posts. Videos have helped me. I can do a 2-minute video, send it out to district staff, send it out to the AGs, the presidents, sometimes all Rotary. And messages got to be maybe a little bit edgy. Like if somebody in your club's a jerk, tell them stop being a jerk. And because jerks are not allowed in Rotary. So video messaging for me and catchy titles for speaking presentations. Like it's time to disconnect your Rotary Club's fax machine. Okay, call it what it is. So you might ruffle a few feathers, but guess what? You ruffle a few feathers and a lot of people will get the message.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah,
I think
and just to close is that I totally agree with Chris and with Patrick is you need to be a little bit aggressive. If your district governors aren't on board with the innovative club idea, or if your district training team isn't on board, you need to be assertive and find ways to get in front of those audiences and get the word out. And that's the way you're going to find the clubs that have an interest, or at least find individuals that may have an interest in what you have to say.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris Jones for him to close us out this evening. Thank you
Thanks.
all.
Thanks, Ken. And what a vibrant conversation we've had this evening. And, it always impresses me to hear everything that everyone has to say in terms of how we can approach innovative clubs in our district and how we can continue to corner that market and add more Rotarians to the greatest service organization on the face of the planet. So I'm just going to wrap us up here very quickly. We have a number of upcoming events to keep in mind. February 17th, we've got the DMC meeting happening at 5 p.m. February 20th is the ICA reporting deadline, so don't forget to get your numbers in. March 3rd is a Zoom formation call at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And Mary, I don't remember the exact date of the upcoming MAP meeting, if you could give me that real quick. Is that March 10th?
Should be the 10th.
Yeah, March 10th is the next ICA meeting. And apparently today is National Homemade Soup Day and National Hemp Day, whatever that means. Sean had it here in our notes, so wanted to give that out to y'all.
Well, we know it's important to Sean.
Anyway, thank you all so much. And I apologize for the rough start that we had here this evening. Thank you all for hanging in there and being a part of this. And thank you for sharing all of your great ideas. You know what? It's only February 4th. We've got another 24 days to make this an outstanding month. And I encourage you to do so. Have a great evening, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Great input. Great meeting today. Thank you.
Chris, can you hold it open for us?